Hey guys, Will here with CreateStudio, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create the mobile landscape slide animation right here in CreateStudio Pro. Alright, so let's take a look at the finished product so we can see what we're working with. So we've got a phone that slides into the right, we've got some text that animates in, and then we got the hand that comes up and swipes across the images, showcasing whatever it is that you want to showcase, right? So the cool thing about this animation is that you can showcase pictures, you can showcase a website, video clips, and it really brings in the audience and gives them something to visually look at. It's visually pleasing, right? All right, so let's go ahead and start from scratch. So the first thing I want to do is I need to create a background. So I'm going to go over here to shape, open it up, and then I'm going to click on the rectangle. And before I do anything to it, I'm going to rename it. So I'm going to right click it, go to rename, and let's call it background. All right. And next thing I want to do is I want to maximize my shape to the same size as my canvas. So I need to go to the expand tool, need to open it up. And now I need to choose a color. You can put a picture back here. You can even put a video clip if you so choose. But I'm going to go ahead and match this background to the same background as the original video. So with my cursor showcasing over this original video here, I'm going to then make sure that my background shape that I created is selected by making sure it has a blue box around it. I'm going to come over here to my settings under color. And I'm going to go ahead and instead of choosing a solid color, the middle selection here is kind of like a gradient choice. So with that selected, I'm going to choose the first color wheel here, and you can tell it's been selected because it's got a white outline around it, as well as the arrow is there telling you that, hey, this is the color that's selected here. So with that selected, I'll go to my eyedrop tool, select that, and then I'm going to go ahead and choose this orange side of the picture here. And then I'm going to select the second color wheel here, and there's the arrow letting me know that I have selected it. And again, I will select the eyedrop tool and then choose somewhere in the pink area. And now, when I come over and look at my background, I've got the exact same gradient as I've got over here. All right, and you can also adjust this too. So maybe you want more orange. You can drag this orange side to the right here and it gets more orange, or you can drag the pink and it'll become more pink. So your choice, but I'll keep it as is. All right, next step, we need to drag some assets in. So I'm gonna go over here to my media, and I'm gonna go to where I've got the file stored and drag in my iPhone frame, all right? So I've got it dragged in. I'm gonna go ahead and scale it up. It's at 38% right now. Let's go ahead and make it 43%. And now we need to rotate it to make it landscape. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to my settings over here, and then go to properties. And under rotation, you can manually type in the degree you want, or you can move your cursor over the degree symbol and left click and drag, and it'll then do that. Or you can move your cursor over the edges of the corners here, and then you can left click and drag and rotate it around as you want. So I need it to be 90 degrees. So I'll just go in here and manually punch in 90, and there we go. All right. So we've got the frame set up, and we're going to create a shape for the screen here in a second, but I'm going to go ahead and add the text so it's kind of out of the way. So I'm going to come up here and go to text, and I'm going to drag it down, and then I'm going to go ahead and just call it, let's call it your text, and this is going to be number 1. All right. Now with that text selected, let's go over here and change the color to white. And again, you can do all this by selecting your text file that you just created down there in your track, and then it will bring up the properties in the settings for all of your text options, from font to weight to color. Anything you want to choose with text, it'll all be right here in the settings under your text properties, right? All right, so we've got that in there. I'm going to go ahead and add an animation to it already because it needs an animation. And I'm going to go ahead and with my text selected, come over here to motion, and we're going to go to scale, and then we're going to go to back up, right? So right here. So now when I press play, you'll see that it kind of comes in there. It scales back up, which is nice. Now, if I select my effect that I just created into my text file, you'll see that I get some text presets, and I can go to advanced settings if I want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to choose letter, and then I'm going to go ahead and choose forward, which is already selected for me, and my letter offset, I'm going to make that about 18, right? So if I play that back, let's see what that looks like. And you can tell it kind of just lets it roll out there in a nicer way. And again, these are all properties that you can adjust. And again, you don't have to do it exactly like this, but just kind of shows you the different variety of animation and different presets you can do with the text file itself, right? So I've got that, it's looking good. And so that's my first text file. So what I can do is I don't have to recreate this text again with all the animation. What I can do, since there's 3 text files that are gonna pop up inside of this animation, I can just duplicate this, right? So with that text file selected, I hit duplicate, and then it created again. And then what I can do is on this one, let's go ahead and drag out the background so we got some stuff to work with here, is I can change this guy and make it your text number 2. And then I'll duplicate it one more time. And again, on this one, we'll call it your text number 3. All right. So the text is out of the way. We've got everything we needed. So we animated it, right? And it's going through, and we can adjust the timing of these once we get all the other animations in. But that's just kind of our layout there for text. We don't have to worry about it. It's already in there. It's good to go. All right. And you know what we can do is I can add the hand now too, and I won't animate it yet, but I'll just drag it in so we have a place for it. So I'll go ahead and go to my media, and then I'll drag my hand asset into my canvas here, and you'll see that there it is sitting right there. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of lay it right there for the moment. And I will go ahead and just kind of move it off screen here so we can, and I'll just know it's there. But now it's there. It's ready to go when we're ready to animate, and I don't got to worry about it. But my next step here is to go back to the iPhone frame. All right, now I need to create a screen that is the shape of this phone, so that way I can mask it to the frame itself, and then we can start working with adding images that we can then scroll across, and that will showcase across the iPhone screen. So what I can do to create a mask first, or I need to create a shape. So I'm going to go over here to shape again, and I'm going to choose rectangle, right? And I'm going to go ahead and then just resize this blue box that we just created, this rectangle, to the size of the iPhone frame. So I'm going to hold shift, and then if you hold shift and drag the corners there, you can see it adjusts the both sides at the same time there, which is nice. So you can kind of reframe this a little faster, makes it a little more efficient for your time when you're editing here. All right, so now if I zoom in a little bit, you'll see I've got these corners still from the rectangle, and it's not round like the iPhone itself. So what I can do is I can move my cursor below the resizing square, and if I put my cursor over it, it turns into like a crosshair. Now if I left click and drag down towards the center of the shape, it'll start to round out my edges. So if I zoom out a little bit, you can see that a little better. So if I go up, it's back to square. If I go towards the center, it then rounds it out. Now you don't want to go and round it out too much to where you're already showcasing the edges of the background here within the iPhone frame. That's not the look you're going for. So make sure that you just kind of go into the frame a little bit, and then you should be pretty good like that. So once you got your shape to the size of your iPhone frame, go ahead and you can either right click on the shape itself, or you can come down to your track and you can right click it. And you're gonna group it. But before I group it, I'm gonna go ahead and let's rename this guy and call it screen. All right. So now let's right click, let's group it, and with that group that we just created, we'll go ahead and rename that again, and we will call this screen swipe. How about that? All right. And now I'm going to go ahead and come over to my settings, and then I'm going to choose mask. And I'm doing this, before I do that, make sure that your group that you just created from the iPhone shape that you made, and make sure that's selected, sorry. And then go over here to settings, and under mask, check mask. All right. So now when we double click inside of this, there's our shape that we created to the size of our iPhone frame. And then, so this is essentially where we're gonna place images that will then slide across the iPhone. But what I'm gonna do is, since we're adding 3 images and we're not just showing one image and that's it, we're gonna go ahead and animate those images to slide across screen, right? So what I need to do is I need to right click, actually not right click, I need to select this shape, and then I need to come over here and then drag this corner, and then I just need to drag it out. And I need to zoom out here so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm gonna keep dragging out a little bit, and let's move this over here. And I need to go maybe a little bit wider, because I'm basically gonna place 3 pictures, like one picture here, one picture in the middle, and then one picture way out here. All right, and you'll see how that works here in a second. But go ahead and drag it out a little more. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna right click this guy again and then hit group. And so now when I double click into the group again, I've got my actual group that I'm gonna go ahead and add pictures to. And this is then gonna be masked to the iPhone frame again. And that will allow me to animate these 3 pictures that are gonna be in here to slide across screen nicely, which we'll showcase here in a minute. Now I don't need the blue shape anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and select that, hit delete. Now I'm gonna go ahead and drag my time out a little bit, maybe to like 10 seconds here. All right, so let's go to media. Now let's go ahead and import in these pictures and size them up. So let's drag in the first picture right into my canvas. And as you can see, this picture is a lot bigger than the iPhone screen itself, right? So that's all right. So all I gotta do is just kind of drag from the corner, resize it, and then I will place it there in my window here. Now I can make it a little wider if I want, and then just kind of resize it down and show more of the sky there. And that's looking pretty good. All right, so let's make sure that's at the 0 line. Now let's go ahead and go back to media. I'm gonna drag my other picture in real quick. And same thing, we're gonna go ahead and resize that guy and then just line him up right next to this one. And then let's zoom in a little bit. Let's drag it up to show more of that shoreline. And then that looks pretty good right there. All right, so next up, we've got one more picture to add. So I'll go back into my media and let's add our snow mountain picture here. And again, let's resize that guy real fast and drag that in. Let's go back in, and then you can see I can kind of got some room here. So let's go about right there and let's move it up to about right here. All right, so that's looking pretty good. And so I've got my 3 pictures in. Now what I wanna do is I wanna go ahead and group each one of these pictures, right? Because I'm gonna then mask that group to the frame of the iPhone. So the first picture is this one, right click, group it, and then I'm gonna rename it. And let's call this one, let's call this screen 1. Same thing with this second picture, right click, let's call it group, and let's go rename, and we'll call this screen 2. And then this last picture, same principle, right click, group it, and then we're gonna rename it, and we'll call this screen 3. All right, so we've got our 3 screens, we're looking pretty good here. Now let's go back to the screen swipe here. And you can see that, I'm gonna drag this out so we've got more time here that we're working with. All right. And, all right. So what we can do is I can play it, and then I'm going to choose a spot that I wanna create the animation at, right? So I'm gonna select it, right click it, and then add animation, and we're gonna choose position, all right? So about right here is where I want to start the animation itself. So let's drag this in over here a little bit. So I'm gonna select that, then select my image here to choose the start point. Then I'm gonna select my ending point, and then I'm just gonna drag this guy across like this, right? So there is my second picture. All right, so and you can see how this works. So it's kind of gonna show up, it's gonna be there, and then it's gonna swipe across, right? And you can adjust the speed of this animation by adjusting your keyframes, right? The closer they are together, the faster the swipe's gonna be. The wider across they are, the slower the swipe's gonna be. All right, so I'm gonna kind of make it like kind of a medium speed here, and that's looking pretty good like that. All right, and then let's go back into our group here because I feel like we need to make these images a little longer. So let's go out to 10 seconds here. Let's go to 10 there, and then let's do it for screen 2. Same thing, just to give ourselves some room to work. Screen 3, let's give ourselves a little bit more time. All right, so that should be pretty good. All right, so it should be enough space for us to work inside of our, yeah, there we go, that's a lot better. All right, so now for our second swipe, we've got the first one, and let's say about right here, I'm gonna right click, let's add animation, go to position, choose the first keyframe endpoint, select your image to choose that's our starting point, and then select your second keyframe, that's your ending destination there, and then just left click and drag across to the next picture there, right? And then you can always resize it, frame it as you need to, but let's go with, right there's pretty good. Oh, no, right here. All right, so now we've got not 1, but 2 swipes, right? So there's the first swipe, gives it a little second, and there's the second swipe. All right, and then it will just play out from there. All right, so that's looking pretty good. So let's go back to and we can always go back in here and adjust the speed once we get the hand in there and kind of see what we're working with, and maybe we want to adjust this a little later, a little sooner. But let's go back into our main timeline here, and so we're right here now, right? All right, so the one thing I do want to do is I want to drag or move my iPhone screen to underneath my iPhone frame, so that way it kind of lines up nicely. Now I do have a couple of edges here sticking out, so we can adjust that by just selecting our iPhone swipe here and dragging that in a little bit, and there we go. All right, so we've got our text, we've got our swipes going on. And now all we need to do is add some hand animation here. So let's go ahead and start to do that. But actually, before I get to the hand, let's go ahead and do one thing first. What I need to do is I need to expand my iPhone frame and drag it out so it's a little bit longer. And then I want to go ahead and group my screen swipe with my iPhone frame itself. Now I want to do that because I want to group it together so I can animate all these in together at one time. So I can select both of them by either A, selecting iPhone and then shift clicking on screen swipe, right? And that'll select both of them at the same time. Or I can left click and drag on the side of the track here and just create a box around these guys. And then I can right click and hit group. All right, let's go ahead and rename this. And let's just call this iPhone. And that way I know what I'm working with. And so what I can do is, and let's drag this background up too, just to keep everything together. All right. So with that, everything grouped inside of this iPhone group, what I can do is then animate this. So let's go ahead and select it, come over here to motion, and then under position, check right. All right, now, if I play this back, it'll go ahead and slide in, and I'm already bringing it to life. It's looking pretty cool. Now let's take it one step further, and let's select your right motion that you just added. And over here on the right, there should be some preset settings that you got. Check advanced settings. And then on the rotation there, change it to about -10. All right. So now when I have it fly in, it's got a nice little rotation as it comes in, and it's looking pretty good. All right. So now let's go ahead and align the text before we get to the hand here again. So let's move these two text files over that we created earlier, right? And we can adjust these and move them into the time spot that we want here in a second. But so I've got my phone that flies in, and let's have our text start to animate in about right here. So let's just drag it over a little bit, about right here. So now it's gonna fly in, and our text is gonna pop in. And actually, we can go a little sooner if we want, about right here. There we go. All right, so now we wanna bring our hand into it, right? So we already got our hand added to the timeline here, and I wanna animate the hand so it comes up on screen and then flies across and makes a swipe and then comes off down at a frame again, right? All right. So let's go ahead and choose a spot where we want the hand to come up at. So the phone comes in, the text flies in, and then about probably where it is a good spot for the hand to come up. All right. So let me zoom in here so we can see a little better. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on my hand swipe, add animation, hold shift, select position and rotation, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and drag my first keyframe here, and then I'm gonna select it, and then I want it to start off screen, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and select it and drag it down off screen. Okay, now I'm gonna select my second keyframe, and I want it to end right here. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and drag this in, because the wider apart my keyframes are, the slower the animation is. The closer they are together, the faster it happens. So I gotta find a nice little middle ground. So let's go ahead and leave it there and play it as is. So there it is, and it comes up. All right, so now I want to swipe across screen. Okay, so let's find the spot at which the swipe happens, which is about right here. All right, so I will then right click again, add animation, hold shift, select position and rotation, right? And if I select my first keyframe here, I can then just kind of move this to the right a little bit. And then if I select my second keyframe, I can then move it forward this way and then just drag it across the screen like so. All right, so that looks pretty good. So if I play it back, let's see what that looks like. Comes up and then swipes right left there. So that looks good. All right, now we got to find a spot at which we want the hand to disappear out of the frame again. So I know that I want my text to appear as the hand swipes to the left there. So it'll appear right in this little pocket. So let's go ahead and bring in our next text file here. So I'll drag that over, and then bam, there it goes. Okay, so if I play it back, it comes up, and then the text appears, and we're looking pretty good. So instead of it just disappearing like that, we want to make it animate so it goes down off screen, right? So all we gotta do is select our hand swipe, and let's make it happen about right here. So we'll right click, add animation, select position, and then if you select the first one there and then select your second one, go ahead and just drag it down off screen there, just like that. All right, so now when I play it back, it comes up swipes, and then it goes down off screen. So it's looking pretty good, right? All right, so what I can do is I can speed this up a little bit. So let's go ahead and play there, bam, looking pretty good. All right, so we don't have to duplicate the hand animation again. We can duplicate it, right? So what I can do is I can select the hand swipe and then click on duplicate, drag this guy down over here, and then kind of just rearrange the keyframes to adjust to my next animation set, right? So right now I've got the phone flying in, text comes in, the hand animates up, and then it swipes there, and then it disappears, right? Now text 2 is in there, and then it's about to disappear. So the second hand comes up, and it should come up probably about right here. Let's have it move over just a little bit. All right, so it's gonna come up, and then it's gonna swipe. Actually, let's move it over a little more. So it's gonna come up, and we gotta readjust the keyframes to where the swipe happens a little sooner, right? So that's the adjustment there. So let's go ahead and move this guy in this way. And let's go ahead and, so it starts about right there. So let's go ahead and drag this keyframe right here. And let's go ahead and bring this guy in here, right? Just to maybe speed it up or slow it down a little bit. Let's see. So let's see how that works. So let's slow it down just a smudge. There we go. And then we want it to disappear. And again, remember, we want our third text to appear as the hand slides across screen, about like right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim my text to about right there. So let's trim this guy to here. And let's bring in our third text, right? So let's scale back a little bit here. And let's bring in this guy that's way over here. And I'm gonna bring him in right there. And now let's see what that looks like. So text comes in, and we're looking pretty good. All right, so let's go ahead and play this back and see what it looks like as is right now. So we've got the animation sliding in, our hand swipe comes up, the text is revealing itself, and it's looking really solid right now. All right, so I do want to show you one more thing that you can do to kind of bring the images on your screen to life a little bit more. We're gonna give them a little bit of motion. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go down to where our iPhone group is, double click it, go inside your screen swipe group, and then go inside the slide group here, and you'll see all this the groups of the images that we created. So I'm gonna go ahead and double click on screen 1, and then I'm gonna click on my image, right click, and then go add animation and choose scale. All right, so on my first keyframe, I'm gonna go ahead and scale up to about, let's say 68. All right, and then on my second end keyframe, I'm gonna go ahead and scale down to, let's say 63. All right, so I'll go ahead and drag my end keyframe all the way to the end, and I want my starting keyframe to start right here at the beginning. Now this is a gradual scale out, right? So it's not meant to be really fast. It's just to give a little bit of movement in the image to kind of help bring it to life, right? So we've got that movement starting to happen. It's real gradual, but you can kind of see it there, and it's really nice. And that's kind of what we're going for. All right. So now I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the group here and double click on screen 2 and do the same thing, right? So select it, right click, add animation, choose scale, and then I'll go ahead and select that first keyframe. And let's go ahead and we'll leave it at 65, why not? And then let's go ahead and go to our second keyframe, and let's zoom out to 60, all right? And then we'll drag this end keyframe all the way to the end of the image here, and then drag the beginning keyframe to the beginning of the clip. And then if we play that back, we've got some movement that's coming into this image right here, and it's looking really nice. All right, and again, let's go back out to the group, do it to screen 3 one more time, right click, add animation, choose scale, and then select your first keyframe, and let's go ahead and make this one 68, and then we'll choose our second keyframe and we'll make it 63. All right, and then just go ahead and drag out that second keyframe to the very end there, and then again your first to the beginning, and then make sure we've got some movement going on, and there it is right there, looking really nice. Okay, cool. So let's go back to our main timeline. And now if I play this whole sequence back, it should have a little bit more motion in the screens, and it should be looking pretty good. All right, so there's our motion going on right there, and it's doing exactly what we want it to do. So again, Just little tips and tricks to kind of help bring your animations to life. It's all about the small details, and they really do make a good difference. All right, so that is how you can create a mobile landscape slide animation in CreateStudio Pro. Hopefully you got some really good quick tips out of here. I can't wait to see what y'all create, and I'll catch you on the next tutorial.